Are we live yet? Okay. Looks like we are live. Chat, let me know if you can hear everything and see things. Say hello. There's definitely going to be a latency thing, so I don't know. But hello. Welcome. How is everyone? Are we well? YouTube says I have an excellent connection, so... Ah, there we go. Chat's jumping in now. That is quite a delay. Ooh, oh dear. So... Yeah, I figure this is new, and this is probably the first time you've actually sort of seen the face to the voice. So welcome. I'm Matt, and I started this channel about a year ago, and we're nearly at 50,000 subs. So thank you to all of you for joining and watching. And that's kind of insane. There you go. You're all saying hello, which is great. Yeah, happy Friday. And yeah, I figured I'd just, do a stream because that could be fun to do. So I figure what I'm going to do is just sort of sit and chat for a bit and talk to you lot and, perhaps do a bit of Q&A. And then I can sort of walk through some of the game that I'm working on right now, if that's something you're interested in. That's sort of mostly my full-time job. A lot of people ask why I don't make more game dev guide videos, and it's basically because I'm spending most of my time working on my game. And I figured that it's way better for me to work on that than to actually do loads and loads of videos, because often the topics from the videos come from all the work I'm doing on my game. And I'm very much a sort of quality over quantity person. I don't really need loads of sort of ad rev money. I'm not trying to make this is very much a hobby for me, and I want that to sort of come through in the videos. And I think that sort of is the short answer as to why I don't make more videos, because although I want to, I've got loads to make and loads of ideas. Ultimately, I try to sort of speak from experience, and the only way I'm going to do that is by working on my own things. So that's the sort of, if you see people asking why I don't make more in the comments, that's sort of why, and that's your answer. Am I developing solo, says Jordan Williams. Kind of. No is the sort of short answer. The long answer is yes. I'm the only sort of developer and programmer really on the team, but I have a few sort of collaborators that I've hired from various sort of sides of things to just get content and work on content for me. So, for instance, hold on. My Windows just closed everything. When you shake the window in Windows and it accidentally closes absolutely everything? I really should disable that feature. I just sort of lost the chat window there. Anyway, no, so I am working on a game myself, and I have an artist that I hired to do some of the character art. I hired an artist to do environment art a while ago. I have a sort of biz dev producer that's helping me try and find funding for the game if we need it. We're sort of approaching a lot of development under the impression that we're never going to get any funding, and we're just going to keep going that way. But every time we sort of hit a few milestones, we'll see if anybody, put the feelers out, see if anybody's interested in helping us get across the finish line. I guess that's sort of the answer. So yes, I'm mostly the only person working on the game, but I have sort of some collaborators to help with art and sound and things like that, and a few people that I bounce design ideas off of. My sound designer is really good at that. He's somebody I will speak to regularly. He also did the sound, so he did the sound design on my first game and helped with that, and we sort of bounced around quite a lot. I will get into showing you the game in a little bit. I'm working essentially a sort of business management life sim, but I figured we'd just sort of sit and chat for a bit before I jump into that. Let's have a look. What have we got in the chat here? Kudos on the indie, tough stuff. Yeah, it's hard. It's hard doing stuff alone. I mean, I've gone back and forth from... I mean, the game's taken a while. We started it in 2016, but I've gone back and forth. So I actually used to work for Unity, and if you've watched any Unity videos, you may have heard my voice. And that was sort of where I picked up the educational side of this sort of content and figured out how to do... or sort of what audiences were looking for and what was missing. And so, I wasn't working on the game full time. I sort of did stints of working for different people on different projects. And then anytime I found within months spare, would spend time working on Living the Deal. And so it's not been a sort of 4-year full-on dev cycle, but the game has gone through 3 iterations in that point. So realistically, the current version, which you'll see in a bit, that we've been working on, is the probably early 2018. So, and again, that's not been full-time either. So this year has sort of been the first time in a really long time that I've been working mostly full time on the game, and it goes a really long way. Yeah, and so I think the first thing I did on the channel was a localization tutorial, and that literally just came from me being like, hey, I should maybe, I've solved this thing in my game and found a cool tool that I've been able to build, so maybe I can sort of give back a little bit from the things that I've learned. And I sort of established the channel on a basis of what would I have wanted to know in 2018 when I was getting sort of more in depth on living the deal and more in depth in building a full game that was a lot harder to find. So because there's so much what my friend Matt calls sort of level 1 content, and I think for me I'm way more interested in longer term projects and finding content that helps with longer term projects. And that's sort of what I try to focus on the channel, is like, if you're trying to make a game over 3 years, what are some of the things that you might need to do to do that, which is a lot I think a lot different to what a lot of the tutorial channels are doing, and it seems like a lot of you respond really well to that stuff. So okay, let's actually read what some of you have been saying. So you remember my voice? Yes. I sometimes come across old videos I worked on and don't remember that I did them, and then I hear my voice and I'm like, oh, I did this video. Your videos have a lot of value and have helped me in learning how to utilize Unity a lot better. You cover topics I've previously considered difficult in a really nice and simple manner. Thank you. Well, you're very welcome. Yeah, that's sort of kind of how I've approached the channel, and it goes into a lot of my decision making when I'm choosing to pick a topic. But most of the time I just make videos that interest me, and I'm like, what would I have liked to learn, or what is a good way I can summarize this thing I've just spent 2 or 3 months learning. When and where do I start developing? So I came out of university. I have a film degree, basically. I have a media production degree. I specialize in filmmaking. I have a background in directing and editing, and so I learned a lot of those skills that you probably see on the channel from that. I've always been interested in film from a young age, so I've always been sort of editing and doing things, and that's kind of how I got the job at Unity. I'll come back to that, but at the end of my university year I was working on a feature film, and in my spare time I always dabbled in game design. I worked with Flash for a bit, and so I was just making like a little management tycoon thing, and then that sort of got away with me, and I wasn't using Flash, I was using ActionScript. That was kind of my basis, because my background in Flash lent me into ActionScript, and then I figured out sort of how to do all of that stuff, and then I worked on a game called RPG Tycoon, and it was early access funded, and it kept me employed after university for a bit, and then I released it, and I think I learned a lot in that project. I'm not necessarily happy with where it, like, now I look back as a more skilled designer. I think if you look back on any project, you'll look back and you'll think about all the things you could have done differently. And so if we ever do a sequel, which I think we will eventually, it's just going to be a much better game. Also, ActionScript was great to get me into programming, but I never want to touch that again. I found Unity, and I found C# and I found, oh, hey, cool, I can do all of these things that would take me a week to do an action script in like 10 minutes in Unity. So I very quickly fell in love with it. And from that, actually, from pretty shortly after releasing my first game, I got the job at Unity. I just sort of moved, and I needed money because the game sales were sort of drying up. So yeah, and then that was the sort of start of my career into C# and working on Living the Deal, which was our next game. So hopefully that answers your question. It's just sort of something that I, dabbled with and got just over time you just get better at, right? So I guess I've been programming for 6 years now. No, earlier than that. 2013 I think I started, so 7, but 6.5, 7. Okay. What have we got here? Favorite game I played this year so far? Not much has come out this year that has like actually captured me too much. I played Persona 5 Royal, but I played Persona 5 anyway because I bought that when it first came out because it's a life sim, right? And it's like an RPG, and it's sharing a lot of systems and mechanics that we wanted to use. So I played that again just to see the new content, and that was like 100 hours of my life. So that's pretty much, I think, mostly all I've played this year. And then Forza Horizon 4, which I've spoken about on the channel a lot. Actually, yeah, I think I started playing that this year. So yeah, that game's great. I love Forza Horizon 4. As a fan of Burnout and everything, it's just great. So but I'm looking forward to Ghost of Tsushima. I'm playing Last of Us 2 right now. I liked The Last of Us 1. I recently just played The Last of Us 1. I didn't like the zombie sections in Last of Us 1. I liked the story, and now I'm like those kind of games, especially the Naughty Dog games. I really like the cinematic stuff, the storytelling, and the adventure puzzle solving, same with Tomb Raider games. I like the set piece stuff, the playing through a Hollywood movie kind of mechanics. But I found the zombie stuff in The Last of Us 1 just frustrating, that it was like insta kill if you messed up, and it wasn't very forgiving. They seem to fix a lot of that in this new one, so I'm enjoying it. I know it's got some sort of mixed feelings from people, but technically it seems like a masterpiece, and I appreciate the amount of work that goes into it from the animator's standpoint. There's just some really, really smart stuff they're doing on that game. Have I locked Unity for your project, or keep it updated as new versions come up? Good question. At the moment, we've locked it. And I say at the moment, we're using 2019.1.14. I want to upgrade to 2019.3 or 4, whatever the LTS is now, just because it's nicer and I like the new UI. But I'm probably not going to, because we've just been in this version for so long now. I think it's okay to update Unity versions frequently while you're still iterating, but I think once you start to lock down a lot of the core code and systems and mechanics, unless there's some major killer new feature that fixes a bunch of bugs for you, it's probably not worth updating your Unity version. But I think it just depends on project to project. For me, it just seems like too much of a risk now where the game's at to do that. So yeah, that's sort of where we're at with it. Could you add source code to your projects? No. Short answer. If I plan on putting code in, there's various reasons why I don't do that. But and you can read the FAQs on our Discord. There should be a link below for that if you want to join. My best advice is, if you have problems with any videos, to jump into the Discord and chat to everyone in there. Most people are really willing to help with anything you're struggling with. Shout out to anybody who's in the Discord who's watching this. You're all awesome. Yeah, but yeah, I choose sort of, it's a conscious choice not to, because they're not made to be followed along. Actually, I make the videos to be entertaining first and sort of educational second, I guess. And I design the videos to just be something that you watch in one sitting. Maybe it sparks some ideas and interest, but it's really not about like, this is the best code you're ever going to be able to write for this thing. It really is just there to sort of give you an idea of how I've solved a problem. And it's sort of focusing on that. So I don't really want to give code and things away. If I make mistakes in videos, I'll try to clear it up with anything else. But if I intend to share stuff, I'll let you know in the video if there's a link to it below or anything like that. And that might change, but also I just can't really be bothered. Like I said, this is a hobby for me, so I can't really be bothered to to constantly upload all my projects and maintain them and stuff as well, because that's also a nightmare. So yeah, it seems like it's not a huge problem for most people. And like I said, if you do have any issues, a lot of people in the Discord are willing to help and chat with their solutions anyway. So that sort of feels like a nice middle ground. So yeah, so let's see, what else have you got going on? Feel free to ask more questions, by the way. We'll probably do this for another like 10-15 minutes, and then I can jump into showing you stuff. But I'm having a good time so far. Also, let me know, what are your favorite videos? What do you prefer, the content that I cover? Because I've sort of gone through a different type of range. What has been your sort of favorite ones to watch? What's the game called? The game's called Living the Deal. Again, I'll show you in a minute, and before I finish, I'll sort of promote the actual. I've done devlogs on the channel. I'm going to do one later today. Working on a factory building game similar to Factorio. Your tutorials have helped quite a bit. Well, you're welcome. UI tutorials have helped. Nice. How old are you? I am 27 years old. Please don't steal my identity. Would you consider making a video about best practices in coding, or like others have asked, bad versus good code? Probably not, because there's tens of thousands of those videos already on YouTube, and I'm not really interested in doing videos that other people have already done really well. If I think that if there's a video that I can double down on, or I have more experience in, then that's the stuff I'm more likely to talk about. Do you recommend Bolt? Personally, no. Well, maybe. I don't know. I haven't played around with it yet, so let me caveat to that. I prefer coding I don't like visual scripting very much, but the caveat to that is, which I'll show you in a minute, I have built a visual scripting language for my game for an event system, and I'll explain it in a minute. So is game dev your full time? Yes, I said that earlier. Do you create your own art assets? I pay for them. Yes, I do pay for them. So technically, I guess, but I don't create them myself. I do have a basic understanding of Blender, and I'm actually going to do I'm probably going to do a sort of rigging video to give some info about how to do character stuff. There's something I'm working on around that. Yeah, so kind of, yeah, I have an artist basically that I pay, and I do think that's good advice to anybody who's trying to make a long-term game. You know, if you're just using asset store content, there's nothing wrong with it, and we've used it. We've got quite a bit in the game that's some asset store content, but I'm a fan of working on stuff that's kind of original, because it gives you loads of nobody else is going to have that content in their game, right? That's the one upside to making your own stuff. It's you can create your own unique look to your game too, which works. But I do think that it's really good to use asset store content on stuff you don't own as a good sort of prototyping starting point. And often I will use placeholder assets that's just stuff I've grabbed off the internet or stuff I've grabbed from the asset store. I apologize if you can hear outside, by the way. There's a lot of trucks going past for some reason. But I have to have the window open because it's so freaking warm in here. But yeah, so again, I caveat a lot of things here, and you'll notice I say that in my videos, is that there's never a right or wrong answer. There's like whatever is helping you. So please don't take anything I say as gospel. Just take it as this is my experience as a developer and how I feel about things. Any recommendation on or advice on binding frameworks or tools in Unity? I have no idea what you mean by that. Having artist objects and scenes won't look out of place as far as style. Yeah. I mean, that's the best thing, is that if you are doing your own art, everything is sort of consistent, and I think that's really, really important to have that consistency there. So, oh wow, there's like 100 of you watching. Hi. I forgot about the interior mapping video. That was really interesting. Thank you. I loved that one too. Now that Unity has discontinued the launcher/config screen, the one where you set the resolution, will you be doing a tutorial on how to make your own? No. I mean, I can maybe talk about building an options menu inside your game. and some of the things that could be useful about that. I have thought about doing that, and it's also a UI video too, so that interests me because I love doing UI stuff. Can you do a tutorial on advanced character movement? Probably not, because I don't do a lot of it, and I won't be able to give that much advice on what's, good to do. Cameras, those kind of things I'm really interested in, and UI and stuff. Is stuff I'm probably more likely to do in the future. Favorite asset from the asset store? Lean Tween. Lean Tween is the one asset. It's free. I've spoken about it before. I use it all the time. It is a tweening library. It is the most valuable thing I've ever downloaded from the asset store because it saves me so much time in everything I do. It's good for delays. It's good for animating UI. It's good for moving things easily. It's good for fading things. So much. So much. I cannot... I mean, there's other ones. There's like DoTween and stuff as well, but I just really like the way that DoTween chains. It's very similar to workflows that I've done in the past. So yeah, I'm really, really happy with that. I'm 19 years old and I have 2 years working with game development. Nowadays I feel blocked. Do you have any recommendations for me? Honestly, do the stuff that you're passionate about. Work on things that make you interested. If you're trying to talk about finishing something, honestly, the best thing I can advise is just break everything down into lots of small tasks. Have a plan for how you're going to finish something, what the end state of your project looks like, and work backwards from there to see like, okay, well, how do I get to that? And sometimes, it's not about being motivated, but it's about being disciplined. And that's something I learned very early on when I started game dev. Working on RPG Tycoon taught me that because I was under this sort of early access scheme, so people were already invested in the game, and it made me disciplined to do all the work I needed to do to get it out the door. And that is definitely something that I think is really important if you are planning to make a larger term project. If you're just interested in doing small prototypes and things, just go where your heart goes at any given time. But for me, I learn by working on really long things. I learn really quickly often because I have new ideas for things and I want to really work on that. So that helps me, but you definitely have to have that discipline of figuring out what you're doing this week. And in production, there's these, if you may not have heard of it, but there's these terms known as sprints. And so what we do, I mean, I can show you. Hold on. All right, let's switch over to video view, and this is a very good time to transition. Let me show you our sprint tools. So there is a program called, here we go. There we go. Hopefully that's all good. This is Hack and Plan, and this is the Living the Deal Hack and Plan. And I break everything up into sprints. They're usually about 2 weeks, and I make and just continually add stuff and move things around. So yeah, essentially progress tracking tools are invaluable to making a game, I think, especially a long-term one. So I highly recommend something like Hack and Plan or Trello. I moved to Hack and Plan from Trello because I liked that it allowed me to do more sprint-based things and tag things specifically as bugs or programming tools or whatever. But Trello is also free and really, really good, and I highly recommend that. How do you feel about Unity spreading itself so thin with things like SRP, HDRP, URP? Yeah, I think I've spoken about this in the Discord quite a bit. I'm sticking to built-in for as long as I can. There are some significant things. I mean, I mentioned in the UI video, you can't do a grab pass blur in SRP or URP. Any of the URPs, I think. SRPs, I'm confused. And UI blur is everywhere. And let me show you, right? So my entire game is built around stacking these blurs. So here I'm going to show you some of what we've done. And I can sort of open some windows and things for you. It takes a little while. This game is heavy, so there's a lot going on. So yeah, so look. We have sort of blurs on the tooltips. Let me full screen this. Like this, and then we open the panel and this is blurring the background out as well. You can open this up and, do all sorts of things. And so we've got a lot of these blur features. And so they need to be able to stack on each other. And yeah, if you can't do that, to me, it's a exact. I can't switch to any of them, right? There's other problems as well. Yeah, I think they know that they're what they're doing, and I think much like anything Unity does, it's a series of people making decisions, and they don't really understand the impact of the decisions until it's out in public, which is the same for any project, you know. I just hope that they'll sort of solve it soon, but yeah, it's definitely made me think a lot more about what we're going to do with the next game, especially if they you know, in a year or so's time, once we finish this, what we're going to do next, because you know, if they're dropping support for built-in and they haven't solved some of these problems, it's going to be really difficult. So okay, what else? As a game dev, should I only post devlogs or maybe add some gameplays and amateur tutorials? I don't do what you think you want to talk about, really. I mean, just make stuff that you want to talk. If you want to promote your game, just spend time promoting your game. I haven't done much on this channel because I have. If you want to see devlogs for this game, by the way, hold on, let me find the YouTube channel. I can show you. You can follow the sort of quote-unquote studio channel, which is Skatanic Studios, and I have been putting up devlogs for a while about the game, on and off, actually. You know, there was one I did 10 months ago, and then as I started to have more time on it, I've been doing more. So these are going, I'm trying to put these out sort of once a month or so when I can. But yeah, go ahead and follow some of these if you're interested in more about the game. I'm using the Game Dev Guide channel to sort of show off more of the tutorial side of things and build it this way. But I will be talking about the game a bit more when we're closer to release, of course. So I figured in the live streams it's worth talking about, but yeah, right. I can... Let's have a look. In your game, you'll probably have multiple game speeds. How did you solve speeding everything up? I actually don't. This is a turn-based game. Yeah. So it is entirely turn-based for that very reason. RPG Tycoon did have a time speed thing, but we built this to be turn-based so that it's just easier to work on, especially because there's so much going on in this game. What experience do you have with other engines? Well, I worked on Crackdown 3, which is an Unreal game, and I didn't know anything about Unreal before working on it. I did some of the UI work in the multiplayer side of that game. And so I did some research towards... I worked on a different project, like a couple of prototypes for some people before working on that. And I really liked it. So, you know, I had a really good time working on that. And I like Unreal for a lot of things. It's not great for the kind of games that I want to make, but I am interested in making something in Unreal. The problem I have with Unreal, though, is that because it's all C++ and the engine is all in there, when you make any sort of big changes, you have to recompile everything. And that's just, you know, that's just a bit of a pain. So I haven't optimized the game. We've pretty much optimized it. I think it runs at about 100 frames per second, but there's no point optimizing stuff until you're towards the end. You can make sure that if things are slowing it down, it's worth, but to me, it's only worth really getting into the weeds about those sort of things towards the end when you're seeing significant problems, or if you are seeing significant problems early on to address that. I think we should... The game's not that complicated visually. I think the most complicated thing is that we have the traffic system going by. So I may as well just have it sort of playing briefly in the background. It does slow down with the editor specifically, but also it might be slow because I'm streaming. Yeah, it looks like... consider turning down video settings or using a faster encoding preset. I wonder if I can change that on the fly. Let's find out. It looks like it's probably not going to let me. Oh, it might. Let's lower the stream quality just a tad. Super fast. Alright, if that breaks everything, let me know. But I have just changed the settings slightly. That might improve the frame rate a little bit. Yeah, so probably the most complicated part of this game is the traffic moving around, because that's doing all the AI stuff. So what is this asset you use for visual scripting? Yes, well, let me talk about this. This is mine. I built this. This is a tool I built for the game called Mission Control. It is very janky because it's only made for me. So before anyone asks, no, I'm not going to be releasing it. But it is not technically visual scripting. It is an event sequencing tool. So let me show you. I can show you exactly what it does. Yeah, this. Let's have a look. Missions. Tutorial 02. Okay, yeah. So basically, it's a series of. Let me pop these out. Nodes that use the game event system. Which, if you watch the game events video, you'll kind of understand what I'm doing. Is basically I have a series of nodes that can do things and trigger different game events with different settings, and it will allow me to debug the game and just sort of sandbox the game. But at any point, kind of like if you think about GTA, this tool is kind of like that, where I can start one and it will act as if it's going to take, it sort of takes control of the game world and does different things and changes state. So it's kind of a state machine, I guess. But it just is really useful because it means that we don't have to play half of the game to test one specific scene of the game. We can just start the mission and move things around here to test specific parts of the mission as well. So this one is specifically the tutorial when you first start the game up, and it's it will wait for the game to sort of open up, and then we'll trigger things like a tutorial flag here. So let me boot this, and then I can type start mission tutorial _ 02, and as you see, it now tracks its state, and it's taken control of the game and is showing, you know, this tutorial message, and then waits for the interaction. So it waits for me to sort of move the camera around, and then it's waiting for some time just to allow that. Shows another message, which is in here, and then waits for the input. And I rotate the camera, and then it does again. And I mean, you should be able to get the gist of this. So it's yeah, it's just a sort of homemade mission control management system. So it's the best way we found to manage a really complex story-driven kind of sandbox tycoon game, I guess. This is a life sim business management game. So we wanted to find a way to make sure that we could do sort of story-driven content and missions and quests and all these kind of things, and allow those to occur at different parts of the game. And so we can just sort of fire off these missions. As you can see, there's sort of tutorials and different discovery events, and they can be self-contained or they can be really big, long things, sequences of events. But, you know, for all intents and purposes, it's basically just a quest management tool. So, yeah. And, you know, it just carries on until you finish it, and then it'll end and just set you back to whatever the main state of the game is. So yes, that she is Laura. She is your sister character. I mean, let me actually boot the game up properly, and I can show you a little bit of what it is. It's a little bit janky at the moment because we're working on a like prototype playable thing for some potential people that are interested, and just to get tests and feedback and stuff. So if you are interested in that, you can join the Discord for that, which if you go to livingthedeal.com, you can join, or go onto the Skitanic Studios channel that I showed you earlier. There should be links in the vlog videos for that. So, right, this little magic button allows me to boot the game as if it's starting, I guess, from a build. And I spoke about that, I think, in the little extended toolbar button video. So, I do not know where that bug is coming from, though. UI input utility. Interesting. That hasn't happened before. Oh, weird. Alright, well, I'll worry about that later. Do you know if it's possible to change light maps previously baked at runtime for a given scene? I actually don't. I don't know how to handle that, annoyingly. I wish I have a solution for that, but it's something we're probably going to tackle later, because we have different light conditions for the city, and currently it's real time, but if we can bake all of them, if we can bake all 24 lighting states, we can actually then do a lot more with that to have reflections and lights and different sources. So it's something I'm interested in doing. So I might do a video on that in the future when I figure it out. So stay tuned, I guess. So yeah, we've built a character creation tool. This is something I'm definitely doing a video on at some point. It's been in my pipeline for a long time. And I have some sort of camera tech in here that allows you to, it sort of zooms in and out depending on what you're doing. You can swap between male and female. And at the start of the game, you only have a few options to select. You've got other assets a bit later. Again, I go into this a bit more detail in some of the devlog videos that I've done. And you can, randomly generate a character's name, and then you start the game, and it loads up. The console is Console Pro. It's just useful. It was useful way back when for doing certain tags of things and hiding other things away. And yeah, so now we're sort of triggering into what would be one of the missions, which is, so it's hidden all the UI and things like that, and done some sort of more cinematic stuff at the start of the game. And, you're in, and then you can go in and interact with things, and then you have your little tutorial section. So let's hit open door. Yeah, and then, there's all these things like move character over here, start this dialogue line, and that's essentially how it's all implemented. So I'm not going to go... I don't want this to be a whole thing about like, hey, look at our game, but just giving you an overview of some of the things that I've done relative to stuff I've maybe spoken about before, and maybe things that might come up. So I am using an asset, actually, a tool from the asset store for all the dialogue system. I've modified it heavily, but there's a tool from Tony Cucluzzi, I think his name is, and it is called Dialogger, and it's just something I pulled way back when and just sort of melded it into shape for our project. So let me show you that. And so, yeah, missions can then trigger dialogues and things like that. So, characters, nope, missions, tutorial. Yeah, and so it's a sort of series of trees and things, and there's different states, and I can attach different scriptable objects, and then lines of things, and different localized lines, those kind of things. So that is that, and it's pretty useful. So even if you grab stuff from the asset store, you can mold them into your own features, which is something I really love about it. And I've actually sent sort of screenshots of this to Tony. I've been like, look, I've completely ripped your tool to shreds, but it's awesome. The framework of it is great, is good enough for us to work from. So what does the audio scriptable objects do? Yeah, okay. I think I showed them off a little bit in the scriptable objects video itself, but it's basically just a way that we can trigger them. So the first one we have a like an audio playlist, and that's just so that the game can have a series of pieces of music, and we can just start a playlist. So it's just some data asset stuff, like music to play when you're in certain states of the game, and we just fire that off. And then we have other ones which are like sound effects, and I think they're actually within the audio. Maybe they're not. Sound assets? Is that it? UI sounds? Yeah, there we go. So we have a dynamic sound event, and it's just things like volume ranges and pitches. And we can sort of preview that sound. Hold on, I'll turn it up so you can hear it. Right, and yeah, that's held by and managed by the audio systems that we've got in the game. So really useful for, it picks a random one of these, pitches it within that range, and then just plays it. So it just adds a little bit of variance to sounds that you're going to hear a lot. So same with sort of just pitching them up and down a little bit makes them feel a little bit less repetitive. It's a really easy way to use the same sound without it feeling like you're using the same sound again and again. People are very easy to trick, or our brains are very easy to trick, which is useful sometimes in game dev. I highly recommend getting away with whatever you can, doing the sort of minimum viable amount to make something good. What's my opinion on game jams? They're great. I would regularly take part in the train jam on the way to GDC, one of my favorite events of the year. I think they're really good at scope management and team building skills. And it's also really nice to just build something in 3 days. So, yeah, that's nothing else to say. I don't really plan on holding any anytime soon, if that's something, you're asking. But I think they're great fun to do when you've got time. They're just quite exhausting, I think. So, console logs are purple. Yeah, I think I said just because I'm using a different console asset. It's called Console Pro. Don't know why they're purple. Don't really know what the difference is. And have I ever worked with a big team? Yeah, like I said, I've worked on various projects actually. I worked on, like I said, Crackdown 3. So that's worked with a team called Flix, and then they were working with Microsoft and Sumo Digital on getting that game done. And so there's constant back and forth between the different teams to get things going. So, and then I've worked at Unity, so I've also worked with lots of different hierarchies of people. I prefer the smaller team vibe because you can get things done faster and iterate more quickly. There's a little less bureaucracy involved. But the power of having people that are really good at their jobs that you can lean to is nicer, because then it means you're not doing everything yourself. So, yeah. So people keep asking what I'm making. Yeah, it's a game called Living the Deal. It's a business management life RPG where you will try to sort of wake up in debt, and you need to pay off your debt to survive, and you sort of fall into a trading empire, and it uses a role-playing sort of battle. So we have a RPG battle system to negotiate with other people and get deals, and that's sort of the twist of the game, is that you take part in these sort of turn-based negotiation battles. And I think I can show you some of that. I don't know if it's maybe... Yeah, I can probably show you how that works. But it's where the idea for my... it's one of the least viewed videos on my channel, but it's where the sort of cinematic battle sim camera ideas came from. I am just going to mute the audio for now for that, because it's a little bit loud. So there's a few things missing. This is like very in development, by the way, what you're seeing. So keep in mind that not everything will work. Start. Oh, I highly recommend adding a console to do sort of very specific things into your project. I added this a while ago, and it is very good at just, you know, taking advantage of certain shortcuts. I can show you how I've done it, but yeah. So when you're trying to make a business, you're trying to make a deal and you're trying to sell to a buyer, you trigger this negotiation system, and the idea is that there's a favor bar here that the negotiation moves back and forth between, and you do more damage if it's more in your favor, and they do more damage if it's more in theirs. And so yeah, it's pretty standard stuff, you know. It's like do some, but we've tried to make it make sense within the context of a negotiation. So there's no actual like physical attacks. It's all sort of contextual, I guess. It's supposed to be an interesting twist on the genre. And so we have sort of MP, which is, well, focus, which is like magic points, right? And so you can negotiate, and then that does like double the amount of damage, but it takes up more. We haven't done a lot of work on this yet, but as you can maybe see, if I jump into the scene view, we have a series of... hold on. Why is that not showing? Environment. Am I too far away? There we go. Yeah, so this is basically just an environment that's preloaded. It's so we can... This didn't used to happen. This was usually like a room, but what I realized was that like there'd had to be a loading screen between. So, and I spoke about this in one of the devlogs that I've done, but I didn't want it to be in a room anymore. I wanted it to be this sort of conceptual space that takes... like the game's a bit ridiculous, so I want it to be this sort of conceptual thing that happens. So I ended up redesigning a lot of it into this sort of orb space, and so this is just using some shaders and different imagery to make these effects, and then, you know, that's what it looks like on camera. So there's a lot of post-processing going on. But if you've seen the cinematic cutscene tutorial, the sort of battle system camera tutorial, you can see this is exactly how I've laid it out. So it's just jumping between the different tracks there, and it's focusing on whoever's battling. And then I've built another system for actually like move cameras, and so the move cameras are always the same, but it's off of a similar idea where it pushes in on, picks a target and pushes in. So Fuzzy D Posy, thank you very much for the £1. That's very generous of you. Did not expect anybody to be donating, but I appreciate that. But you didn't say anything, did you? Could have given you a shout out to something you were going to say. Anyway, amazing take on an ordinary simulation game. Thank you. Yeah, we're trying to build like... Do you remember those sort of Flash City RPG kind of games where you just did busy work and had some things? We're sort of... That is a base inspiration for this, and then tried to build on that with an underlying narrative and some more management sim stuff. I can get into the technical weeds of it, but again, I think the best thing is, if you are really interested in this, is just to go watch the devlogs. I'm going to be putting another one up later this weekend about some of the stuff I've been changing recently. But yeah, I'll probably link, if this is the in the VOD. I should have put it in the description for this, actually. I wonder if I can change the description live. Probably can't, right? No, it doesn't look like I can. All right, well, yeah, when this VOD goes up, I'll put the link to the YouTube channel for watching the devlogs for this up, so you can see them then if you want to. And I keep losing the chat window. Okay, right, there we go. Back to his. So yeah, anyway, battle system, that's how it looks like. And when you win, it then goes through a sort of reward screen, and you know, the stats and stuff, and then you get to pick perks, and you can choose from a perk, and you know, the choices are important. You get rewards, you get money, blah blah blah. Yeah, so that's kind of the gist of how that works. There's location-based things, so the strategy is also where you are to where you're going to be. Yeah, I can share the link now. I don't know if I can share it. Maybe I can share it in chat. Hold on, I have not got any of these windows managed properly, so I am really bad at this. Like I said, this is the first stream I've done, so this is going to be a little bit rough. I apologize. I think that will work. There you go. That's the link to the Skitanic Studios channel. But yeah, I'll put it in the description as well when this, like, the VOD goes live, so you can rewatch things if you need to. How do you communicate between scenes efficiently? I've had problems making the UI communicate with most other things if it's in its own scene. My best advice is singletons and game events, and I've got an entire video on using game events if you need to send things to UI. But all of my UI is tied within this UI canvas, and it is just a canvas here. Oops. Like this. Actually, I'm going to stop playing the game so we can actually see this a bit better. Here you go. So let me just hide the city. I love that hide feature. That's one of the best things Unity have added, is the just don't show this in the scene view button. Oh, so good. Yeah, okay, so this is how the UI is structured. I will do a little bit more on this probably. I love doing UI videos. I think, you know, you guys seem to really enjoy them. They have gained me significant amount of subscribers. I think they're the highest viewed videos on the channel. So I'm very encouraged to make more UI videos, and I like UI videos. So they will keep coming. Don't worry. Yeah, everything's in here. So there's a lot of different modules and assets, and so this is sort of for the trading menu. Everything's sort of active, and they've got their own scripts on them to handle one another. And then there's a sort of larger script manager here, which ultimately is just called UI system. And let's open this up, and you can see, of course it's going to open up in the other window. Why wouldn't it open up in the other window? Okay. This game has so many scripts. Welcome to working on a huge project. Yeah, so this sort of has a singleton element to it. You can call the UI system and then get references to things. I have a lot of it is just more tied into game events to keep stuff as agnostic as possible. But you can see here I'm using a lot of them. So the UI system will listen for things like when a negotiation starts, and then it will show the negotiation transition. And play that aspect. And so game events are probably the best way. A sort of event system is great because you can just have a UI system that's agnostic, doesn't need to be handled by anything, and you can just call an event from something somewhere in your game, and then the UI system can go, oh, okay, this event has happened, I'll switch to this UI state or add this UI element or whatever. So that's my best advice for that. But I'm lazy, and I will often just do a mix of everything depending on how I feel at the time. So sometimes I'll add stuff into my UI system, but if they're like very bespoke things, I won't. And it's really dependent on the mood I'm in at the time. So that's my best advice, really. All right, what else have we got? Thanks for the great content. Always great to see fellow developers' perspective. Oh, thank you, Proto. That's really nice of you. I really appreciate it. Yeah, that's amazing. Thank you so much. Look, like I said, this stuff is a hobby, so I'm just pleased that, like, obviously I was happy that I could run ads on the videos, but you know, this is definitely me just trying to give back a little bit. So, and I don't have the time because I'm working on games full time. I don't have the time to dedicate to doing all the sort of Patreon kind of things. So, but thank you very much for donating. I really appreciate that. You should do a tutorial on how to make a console and make your use out of it. Your tutorials are really good. Yes, it's actually probably one of the next things I'm going to do. I think the next video I'm going to do is a graphing. Okay, I'm going to preview this and show you exactly what I'm going to talk about, and you'll be like, "Oh, I saw this in your live stream," and you should comment that on the video when you watch the tutorial. But the next tutorial I'm going to do is something I've planned on doing since I implemented it into the game. So let me just do a cheat, which allows me to... Ooh. Oh no. Does that cheat not work anymore? That's interesting. Maybe I won't be able to do it. Okay. Yeah, that's not going to work. Oh, interesting. What has happened there? Okay, it might be fine. Let's find out. It is potentially okay. Okay, no, we're good. We're still fine. All right, so this is like the trading view mode. Again, more description in the devlogs, but you can sort of find businesses, and then there's information about them that's hidden, and you can do like analyses. but once you buy a place, it then has different sort of growth rates, and this is what I'm going to do the tutorial on. So Unity doesn't have a line renderer built into the UI system, so I've had to build one because I wanted to show information in these sort of graphs and track sort of states. So I spent, I think it was, a day and a half building a UI renderer solution. It looks like it's bugged there, but it can take lots of different feedback and views in, and sorry, I'm just seeing you're talking about the bad FPS. No, it's running in the editor and streaming. Yeah, if you're worried about the game looking bad, that's probably why. It's just because it's editor and stream. But hopefully the video FPS is fine. Otherwise, this has been awkward. We'll tweak it. We'll fix it. If we do another one, I'll make sure that I get some more optimum settings. But the game probably will always be a bit balked because I'm trying to record at the same time, and it will always be lower. But just for reference, again, this is a much higher. I think also when I'm maximized, this jumps up. But yeah, it's probably because I'm recording at the same time. So usually this is running at like 80 FPS or something. So okay, so yeah, the next video will be this UI tool. So I think I can show you. I have basically created a UI line renderer script, and then also like a graphing script which takes a version of all of the UI line renderers and then plots them. So it's a graph plotter tool. So basically I think the video will be like UI graphs in Unity, or like probably actually from a click standpoint, the title will probably be like UI line renderer, because that's something people will search for because it doesn't exist. So that's probably going to be like making a UI line renderer, but the topic will be building a graph, and we'll use something similar to this. I'll use something similar to this as an example. I'll probably like make the context of the video will be like the stock market or something, and you need to plot that. So plotting a UI line renderer graph or something. I don't know. That UI is lit AF. Well, thank you. I've worked really hard. It's gone through so many iterations and I'm constantly changing it. This one, the task requests, I'm really happy with. They look way better than they used to, and also the buyer screen looks way better too. I don't know if I can discover buyer 0. Does that work? Yes, it does. Oh, debug messages are so good. Which then should open up this. There we go. And then this window. And I've done some changes to this stuff recently too. And it just looks way better. So yeah, and then I think also if you go in here, you can then sell to a buyer. So there's a lot going on, upgrades and things. It's all in development. I think somebody asked when is this going to release? We're hoping next year, but I mean, join the Discord for the game and follow the game on the Skitanic Studios channel, which I've shared in the chat somewhere or will be in the video description. And yeah, feel free to wishlist it on Steam. So you can go to livingthedeal.com, and that will there's links to wishlist it and follow it and stuff there, all the socials and whatnot. But I'll share more about the game when I'm close. I'll probably share a trailer for the game when it's close to release on the Game Dev Guide channel anyway. But for now, that's what you can do if you're super interested. I just don't want to shove it down people's throats, because it's like, you probably come to the channel to watch tutorials, not necessarily to see what I'm doing, but some of you might be interested in that. So yeah, right. What have you got going on here? Graphman can. How do you control different UI panels, like making sure only one window is open? All of that is explained in the tab system video. I literally just run it with tabs, and when a tab is clicked, it turns everything else off and enables a different tab. So if you haven't seen the tab system video on the channel, go watch that. It explains exactly how I manage opening and closing different UI panels. But yeah, most of it's just running through tab logic, and again, the event system telling it what to do and what to change. So do you think you'll be doing more of these streams in the future? I would like to, actually. Yeah, I put a message out on the community channel, seeing what people wanted. I was like, there's some live streaming features. It's a good way to talk to you and do something a bit more relaxed like this, more chill. And what what would you want to do? And a lot of people said Q&A/work on the game. So I haven't done any work on the game, but maybe we'll do that in the future. I'm probably only going to continue streaming for about another 20 minutes or so, because I haven't eaten anything yet, and it's lunchtime, and I'm hungry. But, this was just for me, it was just a way to be like, hey, thank you for following, and really helping support the channel, and I'm glad I've managed to help. And I just figured it was a nice way to say thank you, to do some of these streams. But let me know. I have other developers I know in the games industry that would probably be happy to come and chat. Old colleague of mine from Unity, who's now, I think I've spoken in the Discord about this. I do some work for a company called Thousand Ant, which is run by Matt Shell, who used to work at Unity. He recently left to pursue that, so I help him with that, and I'm sure he'd be happy to come on for one of these. If you haven't subscribed to them either, I recommend it, because Matt is great, and gives really good advice. So and I think I'd love to do some more sort of design discussion kind of chats about just game design in general, and I think that could be really fun. I'm going to switch back to the camera for now, and just chat to you for a bit. Hopefully seeing some of this stuff has really given you guys a few ideas about perhaps how you can implement things into your game. And that's kind of what I wanted to do, rather than just show, hey, this is Living the Deal and this is the thing I'm working on. I was hoping that I could, there's only so much I can cover in a 10, 15 minute YouTube video, specifically that's got to have a kind of start, middle, and end. And a lot of this stuff is just a bit too tangled to break up into its own thing. And so I kind of wanted to do this to see if that would work. And like I said, hopefully it's made some of what I've done and some of the systems we've built and sparked some ideas for you. Programming streams would be fun. Yeah, I think they would, but I do worry about just me sitting there and typing not being that interesting. So stuff like this, where I can show off things and talk about tools that I've built and break them down, I think is really interesting, and I think is a great source and use of the live stream format, because it's got that kind of back and forth. And I'd be happy to do this on videos as well. So if there's a video topic that you think would fit nicely for a live stream, I could probably do that too. Will the stream be publicly available after it's completed? I'm planning on it. Yeah, I think it can just save as a VOD, right, and then just becomes available to rewatch. So yeah, I'm not planning on taking them down. But again, we'll see. I really don't know. This was really just an experiment to say thanks for subscribing. So question for you, if you can answer: learning shader in Visual Studio. My working snippets are not working, so I'm working if you can have snippets in Visual Studio in shader. Okay, I'm assuming Visual Studio are working with shader. Yeah, I don't. So there is no good tool I know of for making live switching shaders. I think there's probably some online stuff. I think there's Shader Toy, but specifically for Unity, I think a really good tool would be coding shaders and then having the same way you would use in Amplify or Shader Editor or Shader Graph, having a live update. But you have to recompile everything all the time. But it would make learning shaders by code a hell of a lot easier if you could just type them and see what you're doing live. But unfortunately, nothing I know like that exists. Maybe some of you do know of something like that exists, but right now I don't know. Maybe you could do some commenting / giving tips on UI designs made by the community. Yes, I've actually done some of that in the Discord. So, if you want to share stuff you're working on for feedback, well, I recommend you joining the Discord to get, to be the community members. I think once you're sort of chatty and talking about what you're working on and you sort of contextualize things, a lot of people are more than happy to give feedback on things you're working on, or just a screenshot and just talking about that. Try to avoid jumping in and just being like, hey, download my game. But if you want to come in and just be like, hey, I'm working on this thing and I'm not sure how it looks, what do you think? The community are really, really good. There's a good few hundred people in this in the Game Dev Guide Discord now, so it is very much a good place for, and that's only the number of people that are online. I'm looking at it, I think there's a couple of thousand. So the links should be in the description for this video if you want to join it, and I highly suggest it, because there's some really lovely people in there. And, you know, if you are watching this and you're a member of the community, thank you for joining the Discord. I really appreciate it. It's been great seeing the community grow. So I like the way you do your videos, fast typing while talking and then freezing. That allows large content videos. Seriously, localization system was the best tool I've ever seen. Oh, well, thank you very much. I really appreciate that. Yeah, like I said earlier, my approach is a sort of holistic one to a lot of the topics. I think a lot of people, especially in tutorials, when you're early on, it makes sense, right? If you're a beginner and you're really starting to learn stuff, I think it's really important to take it slow. But I sort of started this channel for a version of me a year ago or whatever, you know, sort of assuming that many of you watching have an understanding of most of the core approaches that I go to. And it's more like trying to talk to a colleague about solving a solution, you know, just like this, like sitting here just talking to you about how I've done things in the game. And I think that it's really important to make content for that kind of level of knowledge as well. And so yeah, that was the approach. So I'm glad that a lot of you see that too, because I was worried that sometimes it's maybe a bit too heavy on the entertainment side of it. But I just wanted to make a channel where you could sit and watch all this stuff on your telly and not really worry about whether or not, you know, you need to know how to code. You can just be like, oh, okay, this is the thought process. I'll have a play myself. And like anything I do, most of the time I just make content for me, and then I'm happy that other people also enjoy it. So a couple of tips for level designing would be great. Yeah, I don't do much level design myself, actually. So, you know, a lot of the design stuff that I know is more about player experience and more holistic things about sort of short-term goals, long-term goals, and building the overall game feel. And that definitely is something I'd want to talk about. But I think, again, would probably be more suited for like a podcast or something. I can't think, like, potentially a video essay format that does more of my, you know, the sort of cold open that I do for all the videos, but just extended to 20 minutes. But I'm not sure. I have thought about doing some design topic videos, which I do really want to do. I'll consider it, but nothing right now has screamed out like you need to do a video on this. So I do worry when watching the videos. I want to try it out immediately. Yeah. I mean, that's good. That's a good sign for me. What is the current font you used in the game? Yes, Eclipse Sean, you has said probably Futura PT. That is the font. It is Futura PT, and it is a font I own. I have purchased the license to it, and it wasn't cheap, but it's a really nice font. It was a lot cheaper than Futura, and that's probably a good little bit of advice I think might be worth thinking about is sometimes, you know, when you're starting out, you might not necessarily have a lot of money to spend on anything, and that's absolutely fine. But if you're doing work and you're getting money, consider investing in things that you're going to use a lot. You know, this is now a font that we own and can distribute in all of our projects. So everything won't, but there's an upside to buying a font or versus getting a free one, is that more people are likely to go get the free one than they are to get the one that you've purchased. So a lot of my decisions come from, especially in this competitive market, it's like competitive and not, right? But you still want your stuff to stand out. And so I focus a lot of time on making UI look good, especially because it's a UI driven game and you're going to be in the UI. So screenshots that people take are probably going to be in the UI a lot. And making sure that things are coherent and that visually things look good. And so spending the time on that stuff I think is really important, and spending the money, you know, because time is money as well. So think of it that way. If you can do things, if you can buy something that's going to save you hours of work or time, or it is always worth considering that investment. So I'm trying to think if there's anything else I want to sort of cover. I do have a list of other videos that I'm probably going to work on. Serbian says, is there any game dev sandbox stuff? Not at the moment. There's nothing that I really want to experiment with at the moment. The last ones have done pretty well, but I definitely think I'm going to be focusing on some UI videos in the immediate term. But you know, we'll see. There's probably some other stuff I'll do soon, but you know, I'm trying to think if there's anything specifically that I've got lined up. No, I think it's probably going to be UI sort of line renderer next. That's probably going to be the next video I make. And then maybe some other UI thing that I know I've got planned, but I can't remember right now. But yeah, so I think that's probably as much for now as we can talk about. I think that's probably good. Unless any of you've got any pressing final questions, we maybe might consider starting to wrap this up. I'm just new at game dev, and I'm curious what math and physics stuff should I lead. Well, you learn what you want to learn. I said earlier at the top of this video that there's nothing. I just completely dove into game design, so game development. I have a sort of minor understanding of maths, but it's not my strongest forte. I think algebra is probably the biggest thing that correlates to game development. You know, I think if you have a good understanding of algebra, that's basically just variables. So that's something that has always been a relatively strong point for me. Physics, yeah, obviously going to be hugely interesting, but I've just studied them as I've needed them, right? Trigonometry comes back and forth constantly. When you're doing moving angles and things, I'm constantly doing angular things when you're trying to rotate stuff, and I consistently forget and have to research it. But Google's great. There's often a lot of good solutions for problems that you're focusing with, you know, how to rotate something by a specific angle, how to rotate a vector by an angle, and all these kind of things. So yeah, just, you know, Google things as they come up. I learn by doing, really. So that's my best advice. Amplify Shade Editor was the best investment. Yeah, I bought Amplify too. I've used that too, and I really like it. I've used it for lots of different things. So yeah, I recommend that too. But if you're in URP or the HDRP, then you've got Shader Graph sitting there. I really like Visual Effects Graph too. It's such a shame because Visual Effects Graph is really powerful, and it's just tied behind those two, and it's annoying. But we'll see. The next game we make might, in a year and a half's time, when we finally get around to it, potentially, it will be. But I think somebody asked also if we're going to be releasing this game commercially, and the answer to that is yes, we will be releasing Living the Deal commercially. Probably retailing about £20. I don't know what that is. I guess $25 ish, something like that. Maybe it's probably less than that now, but that's probably going to be the area that we launch it, because it's going to be a big story-driven game. We're hoping for, 10 or between 10 and 20 hours of core content. So, but that, like anything in game design, that will come over time, and we'll just continue to iterate. So, what else? I think that's probably it, probably the last little things. If you want to subscribe to the channel and you're just watching this randomly, please do subscribe to Game Dev Guide. There's lots of really hopefully useful tutorials for you. Chat seems to really be happy with those. And we'll hopefully do another live stream. I'm sorry for the sort of weird, haphazard nature of this. I just wanted to try it out, see what it was like. And thank you for coming along and dropping by. Unsub and then resub. Sure, you can do that. I mean, that's fine. That might mess with my numbers, but feel free. If you're already subscribed, just if you're already subscribed, find 2 people that aren't and get them to subscribe, and then we'll hit that. I want that plaque on my wall. I want the 100,000 by the end of the year. I'm kind of kidding. I'm kind of not kidding, but it would be pretty cool to have. So yeah, feel free to share video. To be honest, if you're already subscribed, the best thing you can do is share the videos with people. Like videos too. Yes, definitely like them. That helps. But getting people to subscribe would be awesome. Because that just helps the channel grow. And it seems like the videos are helpful. I don't know. I just make them and I try and have fun with them, and some people like them. A lot of people seem to like them, and some people really don't like them. I had somebody comment recently that they thought I was like a staged or something. They thought I was just a voiceover artist, which was kind of a compliment, really. It was quite a negative comment, but they were basically like, "There's no way one guy could just make these videos," and that's kind of nice. Made me laugh. But yeah, I do make them all myself, and that's why they take so long, because I have to script them and write them and edit them and make sure that they actually make sense. But yeah, that made me laugh. So yeah. All right. Well, I think that's going to call it for now. But yeah, feel free to join the Discord, and maybe we'll talk more about it there. And I will consider potentially doing another one of these in the future. Like I said, let me know what you think and what you would like to see in another one. I do actually quite like hanging out, and there's just this sort of Q&A kind of thing is quite nice. So maybe we'll just do this again. But yeah, thank you very much for joining me for this. I am going to go eat something now. And thank you again for being subscribed to the channel, following all the socials and things. And yeah, like I said, if you want to follow Living the Deal, please go to the Skatanic Studios YouTube channel and subscribe there. And join the Discord as well. Join the Living the Deal Discord. You can get to all of those just from going to livingthedeal.com, and I will share links in the this is the video version. I'll put the links below. But yeah, until then, until next time, until the next stream or the next video, probably going to be in a couple of weeks, towards the middle of next month, I think. Thank you very much for watching, and thanks for hanging out with me. And this has been fun. It's been nice to chat to you all as well. So see you next time.